I drowned her, not with my hands, not with a weapon, but I drowned her just the same. And for 300 years, every time I've looked at the ocean, I've seen her face under the waves, eyes wide with betrayal, asking me why I didn't save her. My name is James Blackwood. I'm 42 years old. I'm a maritime lawyer in Boston, Massachusetts. I've spent my entire career defending shipping companies, writing contracts, negotiating insurance claims, making sure cargo gets from point A to point B safe. Legal. Boring. My corner office on the 14th floor overlooks Boston Harbor, and every single day, every single hour, I stare at that water and feel something I can't name. Something like grief mixed with longing mixed with guilt so deep it feels like it's been carved into my bones with a dull knife. People think I love the ocean because I chose maritime law. They're wrong. I'm terrified of it. Genuinely, bone-deep terrified. I won't swim. Won't go deeper than my knees. But I can't look away from it either. Can't stop myself from seeking it out, staring at it, feeling pulled toward it like a drowning man reaching for the surface. And every single night for as long as I can remember, I've had the same dream. I'm on a ship, wooden deck, black sails, storm raging, and there's a woman with dark hair being pulled under waves, screaming a name that isn't mine. Nathaniel. She screams for Nathaniel. I wake up gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, the taste of salt water in my mouth even though I haven't been swimming in 30 years. My ex-wife used to shake me awake, tell me I was shouting in my sleep. Foreign words, old words. She thought it was stress. Thought I was working too hard. She left me 5 years ago. Said I was emotionally unavailable. Said I was obsessed with something she couldn't understand. Said I looked at every dark-haired woman we passed like I was searching for someone who didn't exist. She was right about all of it. This is the story of how I remembered. How I discovered that the woman I've been searching for in every relationship, every face, every stranger on the street. She's been dead for 3 centuries. How the ocean took her from me in 1718 and gave her back in 2020. How I learned that some debts can't be paid in a single lifetime. How love doesn't end when you die, it waits. It echoes. It finds you again. Let me tell you how this started. Not with some peaceful regression therapy session or meditation retreat. It started violently. It started with me nearly dying in the exact same way she did. September 15, 2020. I remember the date because it's carved into my memory the same way her face is. I was 38 years old. Successful. Divorced. Alone. I was taking the ferry from Boston to Provincetown for a client meeting. Routine trip. I'd done it dozens of times. Beautiful autumn day. Clear blue sky. Water like glass. Perfect conditions. I was on the upper deck reviewing contracts, laptop balanced on my knees, completely absorbed in clauses about liability insurance. A kid, maybe 10 years old, came tearing past me, chasing a ball. He slammed into my shoulder. My expensive leather briefcase went flying. I watched it arc through the air, tumble over the railing, hit the water with a splash. Important documents, client files, my whole case was in that briefcase. I didn't think, I just reacted. I jumped. The moment I hit the water, the world ended. Not metaphorically, literally. The ferry disappeared. The blue September sky disappeared. Boston Harbor disappeared. I wasn't in 2020 anymore. I was drowning in the Caribbean Sea in 1718, and there were hands pulling me down, rough hands, strong hands, hands that wanted me dead, and somewhere above me, someone was screaming my name. Not James. Nathaniel. Nathaniel, please. Don't leave me. A woman's voice. Desperate. Broken. Screaming in an accent I recognized even though I'd never heard it before. Spanish. Mixed with something else. Portuguese maybe. I tried to swim toward the voice. Tried to reach the surface. But there were too many hands pulling me down. Drowning me. Killing me. Isa. I screamed back. Not my voice. Rougher. Different accent. Isa, jump. Save yourself. But she wouldn't. She wouldn't abandon me. She went down fighting, and I felt her die. Felt the exact moment her spirit left her body. Felt part of my own soul rip away with her. Then hands were pulling me up. Modern hands. Ferry crew hands. I came up gasping, choking, vomiting salt water and 300 years of grief. Sir, can you hear me? What the hell were you thinking jumping in like that? I couldn't answer, couldn't speak, because I'd just lived through someone else's death. Someone else's greatest regret. Someone else's life. My life. Nathaniel Drake's life. The paramedics checked me over on deck. Mild hypothermia. Shock. Possible head injury from the impact. They wanted to take me to the hospital. I refused. Signed the waiver. Sat wrapped in a blanket while the ferry continued to Provincetown, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. But it wasn't from the cold. I could still see her face. Dark hair plastered to her skin. Brown eyes wide with fear and defiance. The way she'd looked at me in that last moment before the water took her. The way she'd smiled even as she drowned, like dying with me was better than living without me. Isabella. Her name was Isabella, and I had loved her more than life itself. When I got home that night, I didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that water. Back in 1718. Back in a body that wasn't mine but somehow was. I pulled out my laptop and started searching. Golden Age of Piracy. Caribbean. 1715 to 1725. I typed in names that I shouldn't know but did. Nathaniel Drake. Serpent's Revenge. Isabella Reyes. The search results made my blood run cold. Nathaniel Drake. English pirate. Active 1715 to 1718. Captain of the Serpent's Revenge. Wanted by British Crown for piracy, murder, and theft. Known for targeting slave ships and freeing enslaved people. Considered a folk hero by some, a monster by others. Ship sunk 1718 off coast of Jamaica during Royal Navy ambush. No survivors reported. Body never recovered. And there, in a footnote in a historical journal I had to pay $40 to access, was this. Treasury records indicate the recovery of one female body from the wreck of the Serpent's Revenge. Identity unknown. Believed to be a captive or perhaps Drake's mistress. Body was not claimed and was buried in unmarked grave in Port Royal. I sat there staring at my screen until dawn, tears running down my face, finally understanding why I'd been broken my entire life. Because I hadn't just lost someone I loved, I'd failed to save her. And that failure had followed me through death, through rebirth, through 300 years of not knowing why I felt incomplete. The dreams got worse after that. Not vague, fuzzy nightmares anymore. Crystal clear memories. I would close my eyes and be there. On the deck of the Serpent's Revenge. Feeling the sun on my face, the pitch of the ship under my feet, the weight of a cutlass at my hip. I remembered conversations, battles. The exact taste of rum from 1717. The smell of gunpowder and blood and freedom. And I remembered her. God, I remembered everything about her. I remembered the first time I saw her. She'd been hiding in the cargo hold of a merchant ship we just seized. I was 24 years old, drunk on power and violence, and she was 19 with a pistol aimed at my chest and murder in her eyes. You killed my father, she'd said. Which one was he? I'd asked. Arrogant, cruel, so sure of myself. The captain. The one who begged for mercy while you cut his throat. In my modern life, that memory should have horrified me. Should have made me sick. But I remembered the context. Remembered that her merchant father had been running slaves in his cargo hold. Remembered the screaming we'd heard coming from below deck when we boarded. Remembered the fury that had made me put a blade to his throat when I saw what he'd been transporting. Isabella's father hadn't been an innocent merchant. He'd been a monster in respectable clothing. And she'd known. Deep down, she'd known what he was, even if she'd refused to see it. I gave him a quicker death than he gave those people chained in his hold, I'd told her. The pistol had wavered. He was still my father. And you're still alive, which means you get to choose what happens next. Join my crew, or I throw you overboard and you can swim back to Spain. She'd lowered the gun. The memories played out night after night like a film reel I couldn't shut off. I saw our first year together in excruciating detail. Every conversation, every glance, every moment that built the foundation of what we became. Those first months, Isabella hated me with a purity that was almost beautiful. She did her work, climbed rigging faster than men twice her size, tied knots with precision that impressed even our most experienced sailors, read weather patterns like she was born to it. But she wouldn't speak to me unless absolutely necessary, wouldn't look at me directly, slept with a knife under her pillow and her back to the wall. I watched her anyway, couldn't help it. She was magnetic in her fury. The way she moved on deck, confident, capable, completely unafraid of the rough men surrounding her. The way she'd stare at the horizon like she was trying to see all the way back to whatever life she'd lost. The way she could outcurse any sailor in 3 languages when things went wrong, her Spanish-Portuguese hybrid coming out in creative combinations that made the crew laugh even as they hurried to follow her orders. The crew respected her. That was unusual. We'd had women aboard before. Pirates weren't as discriminatory as naval ships, but they usually had to prove themselves twice as hard. Isabella didn't bother proving anything. She just was. Competent, fierce, undeniable. 3 months in, we got caught in a hurricane. Worst storm I'd seen in years as Nathaniel. Waves like mountains. Wind that could rip sails to shreds. The kind of weather that sinks ships and drowns everyone aboard. Isabella was at the helm when it hit. Our helmsman had been knocked unconscious by a swinging boom. Someone needed to take the wheel and most of the crew was securing rigging or bailing water. Without hesitation, Isabella stepped up. For 6 hours, she held that ship steady through hell itself. I watched her fight the wheel, muscles straining, hair whipped wild by wind and rain, refusing to give up even when waves crashed over the deck and tried to wash her away. I tied a rope around her waist at one point. She nodded once in acknowledgement but didn't take her hands off the wheel. When the storm finally broke and we were somehow, impossibly still afloat, she tied off the wheel and collapsed right there on deck. I caught her before she hit the wood. "I've got you," I said. She looked up at me with exhausted eyes. "I know. That's the problem." "What?" "Nothing. I'm delirious. Leave me alone." But she didn't push me away when I carried her below deck. Didn't protest when I tended the rope burns on her hands. Didn't pull back when I covered her with a blanket and told her she'd just saved all our lives. "Don't make me like you," she muttered, already half asleep. "It's easier when I hate you." "I know," I whispered back. The chess games started after that. We had an old wooden set on the ship, carved pieces, probably stolen from some merchant vessel years before I became captain. I'd play against myself sometimes on slow evenings when we were between targets. Just to keep my mind sharp. One night, Isabella sat down across from me without asking. Moved a piece. White pawn to e4. Opening gambit. I moved my black knight. We played in complete silence. She beat me in 23 moves. The next evening, she sat down again. Waited. I set up the board. We played. I won, but barely. It became routine. Every night when we were at anchor. Chess. No talking. Just the game. The crew learned not to interrupt. This was our time. Our silent conversation. After 2 weeks of this, I broke the silence. "Why did you spare me?" She didn't look up from the board. "What? That first day. You had a gun on me. You could have shot me." "Probably should have. Why didn't you?" She moved her queen. "Checkmate in 3 moves if I didn't see it coming. Because you were right. My father was a monster. And I knew it. I'd known it for years. I didn't want to see it. Easier to pretend he was just a merchant trying to make a living." "Isabella, don't try to make me feel better about hating a dead man. I get to hate him. I get to hate what he was. And I get to hate that you were the one who killed him instead of me." "You wanted to kill him?" "Every day since I was 12 years old and figured out what he was really transporting. But I was a coward. So instead I helped him. Navigated his routes. Kept his books. Pretended I didn't hear the screaming from the hold." She finally looked at me. "You want to know why I didn't shoot you? Because you did what I should have done years ago. And I hated you for it. And I hated myself for being relieved. I had no response to that. What could I say? So I moved my bishop and blocked her checkmate. We finished the game in silence. But the next night, when she sat down, she spoke first. "Tell me why you became a pirate." So I did. Told her about growing up in the slums of London. About being pressed into naval service at 15 because I was tall for my age and strong enough to haul rope. About the brutality of naval life under officers who saw crew as disposable. About watching men flogged to death for minor infractions. About the moment I realized I'd rather die free than live in chains, even if those chains were legal and sanctioned by the Crown. I deserted during a storm, I told her. Jumped ship off the coast of Jamaica. Should have drowned, didn't. Washed up on shore and found other deserters. Other men who'd chosen freedom over sanctioned slavery. We stole a ship, started taking what we needed from the same navy that had stolen our lives. And I never looked back. Do you regret it? Only the violence. I don't enjoy killing. I'm good at it, but I don't enjoy it. Then why did it? Because the world doesn't give men like me other options. The law says I'm property. Says the Crown owns my labor and my life. So I choose to be property of no one. Even if that means being a criminal. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I understand that. My family tried to marry me off when I was 16. To a man 3 times my age who'd already buried 2 wives. They said it was my duty. My father needed the political alliance. I ran, stowed away on his ship instead. Figured being at sea was better than being sold. Did they try to bring you back? Once. My father caught me, beat me, locked me in a cabin for 2 weeks. But he didn't send me back. I think he knew that I was too much like him. Too angry, too unwilling to bend, so he used me instead. Taught me ships and navigation because I was good at it. Kept me as unpaid crew. It wasn't freedom, but it wasn't marriage either. We played chess until dawn that night. And the next, and the one after that. Slowly, the walls came down. She started sitting with me at meals. Started offering advice on navigation without being asked. Started laughing at the crew's jokes instead of just scowling. 6 months in, during a raid on a merchant ship carrying sugar from Jamaica, I saw her take down a sailor who tried to grab her. She moved like water, smooth, fast, deadly efficient. Disarmed him with a quick strike to his wrist, swept his legs, had a knife to his throat before he even realized he was on the ground. Yield or die, she said calmly. Choose quickly. He yielded. Smart man. When the fighting was over and we'd taken what we needed, I found her on deck. Where did you learn to fight like that? My mother. Before she died, she said women in our family needed to know how to protect ourselves because men wouldn't do it for us. Your mother was wise. She was. And she would have hated what my father became. What I became by staying with him. You're not responsible for his choices. But I'm responsible for mine. I chose to stay, to help, to pretend I didn't know. And now you're choosing differently. She looked at me then. Really looked at me. Am I? Or am I just trading one cage for another? You're free to leave any time. I've told you that. We put into port. You want to walk away, you walk away. No one stops you. And yet I'm still here. Why? She smiled. That almost smile that wasn't quite there yet. I'll let you know when I figure it out. The first time she kissed me happened 8 months after she joined the crew. We'd been ambushed by a Royal Navy frigate. Bigger ship, more guns, professional soldiers instead of merchant sailors. We were outmatched. Isabella had been the one who'd spotted the tactical weakness. The frigate's starboard side had fewer guns, probably due to damage from a previous battle. If we could get around to that side, we had a chance. She'd shouted orders, navigated us through cannon fire, coordinated the crew like she was born to command. We'd barely escaped with our lives in our ship, but we'd escaped. When the danger was past and we were sailing away under full sail, I found her on deck. She was bleeding from a sword cut on her forearm. Some sailor had gotten close during boarding. Nothing serious, but it needed tending. You should let me look at that, I said. She was staring back at the frigate, watching it fade into the distance. That was close. Too close. Your plan saved us. Your crew executed it. I just saw the opening. Still, you saved us. She turned to me then. Her eyes were bright with adrenaline and leftover fear and something else. Something that made my breath catch. I thought we were going to die, she said. I thought this was it. And all I could think was that I never told you. Told me what? She grabbed my coat with both hands and pulled me down to her level. The kiss was fierce, desperate, tasting of salt and gunpowder and blood. Not gentle, not soft, but real. So real it made everything else feel like shadows. When she pulled back, she was shaking. I don't hate you anymore. When did that change? My voice came out rough. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Then she walked away, leaving me standing on deck trying to remember how to breathe. I remembered moving her into my captain's cabin that very night. She'd shown up at my door after dark, carrying nothing but a knife and a change of clothes. I'm not asking permission, she'd said. Good. I wasn't planning to say no. And I'm not going to be your mistress or your property or whatever you people call it. You people? Pirates. Men. Take your pick. You're a pirate now too. Fine. Then I'm your equal, your partner. Or this doesn't happen. I'd stepped back from the door, letting her in. I wouldn't want it any other way. She'd walked past me, looked around the small cabin, bed built into the wall, desk covered in maps, chest full of weapons and stolen goods. This is smaller than I expected. Disappointed? Relieved. Means you're not as arrogant as you act. That first night, we didn't have sex. We talked. She told me about her mother's death when she was 9. About how her father changed after that. Got harder, colder, more willing to do terrible things for profit. She told me about the first time she realized what he was transporting and how she'd thrown up for hours after. About the guilt that ate at her for years after. I told her about the first man I'd killed in the Navy. How he'd been kind to me. How he'd been flogged to death for stealing food because he was starving and the rations weren't enough. How I'd been ordered to watch. How that was the moment I decided to desert or die trying. We're both running from the same thing, she'd said, lying next to me in the dark. From being complicit. From being part of systems that destroy people. Except we're still destroying people. Just different ones. At least we choose which ones. It was a bleak philosophy. But it was honest. And somehow, that honesty felt like home. She became my quartermaster officially 3 weeks later. The crew voted unanimously. She'd earned it. She was better at navigation than our previous quartermaster had been. Better at tactics. Better at keeping the crew organized and motivated. And she didn't take shit from anyone, which the crew respected. We fell into a rhythm. By day, she was Quartermaster Reyes, sharp, professional, commanding respect through competence rather than fear. By night, she was Isabella, lying next to me planning impossible futures, telling me stories about her childhood, stealing my shirts to sleep in because they smelled like me. We raided merchant ships carrying slave cargo, freed the people in the holds and gave them a choice. We could drop them at the nearest port with enough money to start over, or they could join the crew. Most joined. Our crew became diverse. Former slaves, deserters from multiple navies, men and women from a dozen different countries and backgrounds. United only by the desire for freedom and the willingness to take it by force if necessary. Isabella specialized in navigating us through dangerous waters where bigger Navy ships couldn't follow. She knew reefs and shallows like she had maps tattooed in her brain. She could read currents and tides like other people read books. We went places the Royal Navy thought were impossible, hit targets they thought were safe, and disappeared before they could respond. We became legends. Nathaniel Drake and his mysterious quartermaster. Some called us heroes. More called us criminals. Both were true. I remembered one raid in particular. A Spanish galleon carrying gold from Mexican mines. Well defended. 40 soldiers plus crew. We had 20 fighters, maybe. Bad odds. This is suicide, Isabella had said, studying the ship through my spyglass. Probably. So we're doing it anyway? This gold was mined by enslaved people. Aztec gold. Being shipped to Madrid to fund more colonial violence. I can't let that pass. She'd lowered the spyglass and looked at me. You really believe that, don't you? That we're some kind of righteous criminals. I believe people deserve freedom. And that gold can buy a lot of freedom for a lot of people if we can get it. We're going to die, maybe, but it'll be a glorious death. She'd smiled then. Really smiled. You're completely insane. And you love it. I love you, you idiot. That's not the same thing. It was the first time either of us had said it out loud. I froze. She froze. The words hung in the air between us like cannon smoke. You love me, I repeated. Apparently. I'm as surprised as you are. I love you too. I know. You're terribly obvious about it. Am I? You literally tried to give me your dessert ration last week. That's how you knew? Among other signs. The staring. The protective hovering. The way you smile every time I walk into a room like I'm the sun rising. I don't, you do. The whole crew knows. We're taking bets on when you'll officially make me captain's partner instead of just quartermaster. I'd pulled her close. I love you, Isabella Domingo Reyes. Probably have since the moment you put a gun to my chest and threatened to kill me. That's deeply concerning. I know. We'd kissed. Then we'd raided the galleon. Lost 3 crew members but captured the ship and the gold. Freed the enslaved miners who'd been prisoners aboard. Used the gold to set them up with land and tools in Jamaica. Kept enough to maintain our ship and pay our crew. Those were our good years. 2 years of being unstoppable. Of being in love and free and alive in a way that felt almost sacred. We weren't good people. We killed when necessary, stole constantly, broke every law 3 different empires had written. But we were happy, and in our broken way, we tried to do more good than harm. I remembered lying on deck with her one night. We were anchored off a deserted island. Most of the crew was on shore having a bonfire. We'd stayed behind, claiming captain's privilege. Really, we just wanted to be alone. The stars were so bright they looked fake. No light pollution in 1718. Just pure darkness and pure light. If we survive this, I'd said, what would you want? If we could stop running? I don't know if I know how to stop running, she'd replied, her head on my chest. I've been running since I was 6 years old. From my family. From expectations. From being who they wanted me to be instead of who I am. Hypothetically then. Long pause. Then. A ship. A small one. Just us. Sail wherever we want. No crown. No navy. No bounty hunters. No treasure. Just us. And the ocean. Forever. That sounds perfect. It's a dream, Nathaniel. Dreams don't come true for people like us. We're too damaged. Too violent. Too free. We're the people others tell stories about. We don't get to keep the happiness we find. Maybe, but I want to try anyway. She'd tilted her head up to look at me. You really mean that? You'd give it all up? I'd give up everything for you. The ship, the crew, the freedom, all of it. Just say the word. Don't. Her voice went serious. Don't promise me things you can't deliver. The ocean owns us both. It always has. It always will. We don't get happy endings, love. We get glorious ones. And that has to be enough. She'd been wrong. We didn't even get glorious. But I didn't know that yet. In that moment, under those impossible stars, I actually believed we might survive. Might escape. Might get old together on our small ship, sailing from port to port with no greater ambition than being together. I was an idiot. The trap. The easy target. That was too good to be true. Isabella's bad feeling about it. Something's wrong, she'd said. This is too convenient. We should walk away. We need this score, Isa. This is our retirement. Our way out. Promise me something. If it goes wrong, if it's a trap, you run. Don't try to save me. Just run. I hadn't promised. God. Why hadn't I promised? The memory of her death played on loop. The 3 Navy ships. The ambush. The cannon fire. Our ship taking water faster than we could pump it out. The officer shouting, "Take the woman alive. She's worth more than the rest combined." The moment I'd realized they wanted Isabella specifically. Not as a pirate, as a hostage, as leverage against her family back in Spain, because apparently she'd been nobility once. She'd never told me, had never wanted me to know she came from money and title and respectability. The moment she'd looked at me across the burning deck and made her choice. She'd tied off the wheel. Turned to me. I love you, Nathaniel Drake. In this life and whatever comes after. Then she jumped, not to escape, to die on her own terms. To choose the ocean over capture. To deny them the victory of using her as a pawn. I'd screamed her name, tried to jump after her. My crew had held me back. The ship was sinking. If I jumped I'd die too. And dying wouldn't bring her back. But God, I'd wanted to die anyway. I remembered the next 6 months. The drinking, the fighting, The deliberate pursuit of death in every battle. But I'd been too good at surviving. Or maybe the universe wasn't done punishing me yet. I remembered being arrested, tried, sentenced to hang. I remembered my last night alive, writing a letter to no one. I should have listened. I should have run when you told me to run. I should have jumped with you. I'm sorry, Issa. I'll find you again. Somehow. I swear it, even if it takes forever. I remembered the rope, the drop, the snap, the nothingness. And then I remembered being born again. Different body, different name, different world, but the same soul carrying the same grief it had carried for 300 years. Living with these memories nearly destroyed me. I couldn't work, couldn't sleep, couldn't function. My colleagues thought I was having a breakdown. My mother thought I needed psychiatric help. My ex-wife called to ask if I was okay because mutual friends were worried. I wasn't okay. I was remembering being someone else, loving someone else, losing someone else, and that other life felt more real than my current one. That's when I found Dr. Sarah Chen. I'd been researching past life regression therapy online at 3 a.m., desperate for answers, desperate for anything that could explain why I had detailed memories of a life I'd never lived. Dr. Chen's name kept coming up. She specialized in traumatic past life memories. She had a PhD in psychology from Harvard but also studied consciousness and reincarnation. She was skeptical but open-minded. She seemed perfect. Her office was in Cambridge. Small, comfortable, full of plants and soft lighting. She was in her early 40s, with kind eyes and an air of someone who'd heard every crazy story imaginable and believed half of them. I sat in her office and told her everything. The drowning, the memories, the research I'd done on Nathaniel Drake and Isabella Reyes. The way I couldn't look at the ocean without feeling like I was being called home to something I'd lost. She listened without judgment. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Do you believe in reincarnation?" she asked. "I don't know what I believe anymore. I just know that these memories feel more real than my own childhood. I know things I shouldn't know. About ships, about navigation, about life in 1718. I speak phrases in Spanish and Portuguese that I never learned. When I touch certain things, old wood, salt water, antique weapons, I get flashes. Like muscle memory from someone else's muscles. That's actually more common than you'd think," Dr. Chen said. "The question isn't whether the memories are real. The question is, what do you want to do about them? I want to understand. I want to know if Isabella." I couldn't finish. "If she came back too?" "Yes. Let's start with understanding your own memories first. Then we can address the rest." The regression took weeks. The first few sessions, I couldn't get past the fear. I'd start to go under and my body would panic, hyperventilating, feeling like I was drowning again. The trauma of Nathaniel's death was too close to the surface. "We need to approach this differently," Dr. Chen said after the third failed attempt. "Instead of going to the death, let's go to a happy memory. Find Isabella in a moment of joy." The fourth session, it worked. I went deep, deeper than I'd ever gone in meditation or sleep. And suddenly I was there. Really there, not remembering from a distance. Living it. I was Nathaniel Drake, age 26, lying on the deck of the Serpent's Revenge on a perfect Caribbean night. Stars so bright they looked fake. Warm breeze. The gentle rock of the ship at anchor. And Isabella's head on my chest, her hair spread across my shirt, her breathing slow and steady. "If we survive this," I heard myself say in Nathaniel's rougher voice, "what would you want? If we could stop running?" "I don't know if I know how to stop running," she replied. "I've been running since I was 6 years old. From my family, from expectations, from being who they wanted me to be instead of who I am." Hypothetically then, she was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, a ship, a small one, just us, sail wherever we want, no crown, no navy, no bounty hunters, no treasure, just us, and the ocean, forever. That sounds perfect. It's a dream, Nathaniel. Dreams don't come true for people like us. We're too damaged, too violent, too free. Maybe, but I want to try anyway. She'd tilted her head up to look at me. "You really mean that? I'd give up everything for you. The ship, the crew, the treasure, All of it. Just say the word. Don't, she'd said softly. Don't promise me things you can't deliver. The ocean owns us both. It always has. It always will. We don't get happy endings, love. We get glorious ones. And that's enough. She'd been wrong. We didn't even get glorious. I came out of that regression with tears streaming down my face, Dr. Chen handing me tissues, giving me time to collect myself. Over the next few months, we worked through memory after memory. I relived my entire life as Nathaniel Drake. The good and the terrible. The violence I'd committed. The people I'd saved. The impossible, reckless, all-consuming love I'd had for a woman who'd rather drown than be anything other than free. The guilt you're carrying, Dr. Chen said in one session, it's not rational. She made her choice. She jumped. You didn't push her. I should have been faster. Should have fought harder. Should have what? Forced her to live as a prisoner? Used as leverage against her family? You know what they did to women like her. You know what would have happened. I did know. I'd seen it. In that life, I'd raided enough Royal Navy ships to know what happened to female captives. Especially noble ones. Especially ones who'd turned pirate. Isabella had chosen drowning over that fate. It had been her choice. Her defiance. Her final act of freedom. But that didn't make it hurt less. I've been looking for her, I admitted to Dr. Chen. In every dark-haired woman. Every fierce personality. Every person who looks at the ocean like it's calling them home. I can't stop. It's like I'm programmed to search for her. Maybe you are. Maybe that's the whole point of reincarnation. To find the people we loved before and get it right this time. But what if she didn't come back? What if she's just gone? Then you honor her memory by living. By being happy. By not wasting this life on guilt over the last one. It sounded good in theory. In practice, I couldn't let go. I kept researching. Kept searching. I hired genealogists to trace Isabella's family tree. Found out she had an older sister in Cuba who'd survived. The family line continued. Descendants scattered across the Caribbean and eventually America. But none of them were her. I tried to date. Failed spectacularly every time. Every woman I met felt wrong. Like trying on clothes that don't fit. I'd sit across from perfectly lovely people at dinner and feel nothing but the absence of what I'd once had. My therapist, regular therapist, not Dr. Chen, suggested I was using the past life as an excuse not to connect in the present. Maybe he was right. Or maybe when you've loved someone with the intensity I'd loved Isabella, everything else feels like settling. I threw myself into work instead. Took on more cases. Worked 80-hour weeks. Made partner at my firm. Built a reputation as the best maritime lawyer in Boston. Made money I didn't care about. Won cases that didn't matter. And every single day, I stared at the ocean and felt her absence like a missing limb. Then, 2 years after my initial regression, I took a case I normally would have refused. Environmental lawsuit. A conservation group was suing a shipping company for illegally dumping waste near a marine sanctuary. I usually defended shipping companies. I was known for it. But something about this case made me say yes to the other side. Maybe it was the ocean connection. Maybe it was my subconscious trying to atone for the violence Nathaniel had done. Maybe it was fate. The lead environmental lawyer was named Elena Reyes. When she walked into the conference room for our first strategy meeting, I felt like I'd been hit by lightning. She looked nothing like Isabella. Nothing. Isabella had been tall, lean, with angular features and straight dark hair. Elena was shorter, curvier, with softer features and wavy hair she wore in a professional bun. Isabella's eyes had been nearly black. Elena's were warm brown. Different face. Different body. Different everything. But when she shook my hand, I felt it. That same electric shock of recognition. That same pull, like finding north on a compass. James Blackwood, I managed. Elena Reyes, thanks for taking this case. I know it's not your usual work. Her voice was different too. American accent, slightly Latina. Not the Spanish-Portuguese hybrid Isabella had spoken. But there was something in the cadence. Something familiar. I believe in protecting the oceans, I said. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. We worked together for 3 months. She was brilliant. passionate about marine conservation in a way that went beyond professional interest. She fought for what she believed in with an intensity that reminded me of, no. I couldn't do this, couldn't project Isabella onto every woman named Reyes. That was insane, but I couldn't ignore the connection either. Elena and I worked well together. She knew the science, I knew the law. We built an airtight case. Won $47 million Australian settlement that would fund ocean cleanup for the next decade. The conservation group threw a party. Elena was radiant. Drinks to celebrate? She asked me as people started leaving. Yes, I said immediately. We went to a bar overlooking the harbor. Ordered whiskey. Talked for hours. She told me about growing up in Miami, daughter of Cuban immigrants. About spending every summer on her grandmother's boat. About deciding to become an environmental lawyer after seeing oil spill damage firsthand as a teenager. My abuela used to say I had salt water in my veins, Elena said, staring out at the dark water. She said women in our family always belonged to the ocean. That we were descended from sailors and pirates and people who chose the sea over land. My heart stopped. Pirates? Family legend. Probably nonsense. But abuela swore we had a great-great-something grandmother who ran away to sea in the 1700s. Got herself killed in some naval battle. Very dramatic. Very probably made up. What was her name? The supposed pirate ancestor? Isabella something. Reyes was her maiden name, which is why my abuela was so proud of keeping it in the family. Why do you ask? I couldn't breathe. Couldn't speak. James? You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I need to tell you something, I said. And you're going to think I'm insane. But I need to tell you anyway. And I did. I told her everything. The drowning in Boston Harbor. The memories. Nathaniel and Isabella. The research. The regression therapy. The 300 years of grief I'd been carrying without knowing why. And how her family legend was real. How I knew because I'd been there. How I'd loved her ancestor more than life itself and lost her to the ocean. I expected her to leave. To call me crazy. To never speak to me again. Instead, she started crying. I've been having dreams, she whispered. Since we met. Since I shook your hand. About being on a ship. About a man who looks nothing like you but feels like you. About drowning. About choosing to drown because it was better than the alternative. Elena, and there's something else. Something I've never told anyone. Sometimes when I look at the ocean, I hear someone calling my name. Not Elena. A different name. Isabella. Like the ocean is trying to remind me of something I forgot. We sat in that bar until they kicked us out at closing. Talked until we were hoarse. She told me about the strange familiarity she'd felt meeting me. How she'd tried to ignore it. Write it off as attraction or coincidence. How she'd gone home after our first meeting and cried without knowing why. I want to try regression, she said. I need to know if I'm crazy or if this is real. 3 weeks later, we sat in Dr. Chen's office together. Dr. Chen was fascinated but cautious. This is highly unusual, she said. Joint regression. Shared past lives. It's theoretically possible but rare. If you're both willing, we can try. See if your memories align. They did. Perfectly. Horrifyingly perfectly. Under hypnosis, Elena remembered being on her father's ship. Remembered the day pirates attacked. Remembered the young captain who should have killed her but didn't. Remembered hating him, then not hating him, then loving him so completely that drowning seemed preferable to living without him. She remembered jumping. I thought he would come with me, she said in trance, tears streaming down her face. I thought we'd go down together. But they held him back. I died alone. But I wasn't afraid. Because I knew I'd find him again. The ocean would bring us back together. When we both came out of the trance, we were holding hands so tightly our knuckles were white. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long time. I've been doing this for 20 years, she finally said. I've never seen anything like this. Your memories align perfectly. Details that aren't in any historical record. Conversations no one else would know. This is either the most elaborate shared delusion I've ever witnessed, or you two really did know each other before. I'm not Isabella, Elena said. I can't be. I'm me. I have my own life, my own memories, my own personality. But I remember being her too. How is that possible? Dr. Chen started talking about consciousness, about how some theories suggest souls can split or echo across family lines, about genetic memory and epigenetics. I didn't care about the theory. I cared that I'd found her. However it worked. However it was possible. She was here. Maybe not the same woman. Maybe not even the same soul. But the same love, the same recognition, the same pull that had defined both our lives. We started seeing each other. Dating felt like the wrong word. It was deeper than that. Older. Like coming home after a very long journey. 6 months in, we were lying in bed in her apartment. She'd been quiet all evening. Finally, she spoke. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Anything. Do you love me, Elena me? Or are you in love with who I used to be? I'd been dreading this question. Knew it was coming eventually. Both, I said honestly. I can't separate them. You carry her in your blood, in your mannerisms, in the way you look at the ocean. But you're also yourself. Your own person with your own life. And I love that woman too. The lawyer who fights for the environment. The woman who makes terrible jokes about maritime law. The one who ugly cries at nature documentaries. That's you, not Isabella. You. But if I wasn't her descendant, if I was just some random woman, would you love me? I don't know. Because you're not a random woman. You're you. And part of being you is carrying her memory in your genes. I can't love you minus that any more than I can love you minus your sense of humor or your passion for ocean conservation. It's all part of who you are. She was quiet. Then. Good answer. We got married a year later. Small ceremony on a boat in Boston Harbor. Dr. Chen was there. A few close friends. Elena's family, who thought the whole past life thing was either beautiful or insane depending on who you asked. During the ceremony, Elena insisted on adding something non-traditional. We dropped flowers in the water. Roses and gardenias, which she said were Isabella's favorite. For the life we lost, Elena said. And for the one we found. In this life and whatever comes after, I replied. The same words Isabella had said before she jumped. Elena smiled through tears. You remembered. I'll never forget. We run an environmental law firm now. Chen and Blackwood. We take cases other firms won't touch. Sue polluters. Defend ocean sanctuaries. Fight for marine protection laws. It feels right. Like we're protecting the thing that brought us together. The thing that took Isabella away and gave her back in a different form. I still have the dreams sometimes. But they're different now. Not nightmares. Just memories. I see Nathaniel and Isabella on that ship under Caribbean stars. I see them happy. And then I wake up next to Elena, and I see us happy now. Sometimes Elena dreams too. She'll wake up speaking Spanish phrases she swears she doesn't know. She'll describe places in the Caribbean she's never been to. Once, she drew a detailed map of Port Royal before the earthquake destroyed it in 1692, complete with buildings and street names, and it matched historical records perfectly. Do you think we'll find each other again? She asked me once. After this life? I found you across 300 years in an ocean. I'll find you across anything. She kissed me. Good. Because I'm not done with you yet. Last year, we scattered Isabella's DNA into the ocean. We'd done ancestry testing, traced her genetic markers, confirmed what we already knew. Elena carried Isabella's blood. It felt like closing a circle. Returning her to the water she'd chosen. We scattered Nathaniel too. I'd sent my own DNA to researchers studying genetic memory in trauma survivors. They'd been fascinated by my case. The way drowning in Boston Harbor had triggered complete past life recall. The way the ocean had given back what it had taken. The ocean remembers everything. I know that now. It remembers the ships it swallowed. The lives it's taken. The lovers it separated. And sometimes, rarely, impossibly, it gives them back. Not the same way. Not in the same form. But the same love. The same souls. The same chance to get it right. I drowned her 300 years ago. Not with my hands, but by not being fast enough. Not fighting hard enough. Not saving her. But she saved herself. She chose freedom over capture. Chose death over compromise. Chose the ocean over a life that wasn't hers. And then she came back. Through her family line. through genetic echoes, through whatever force in the universe makes sure that love this deep doesn't just disappear. My name is James Blackwood. I was Nathaniel Drake. I'm a maritime lawyer and I was a pirate. I lost the love of my life to the ocean 300 years ago. And the ocean gave her back. Not the same woman, but the same love, not the same life, but the same soul, not the same story, but the same ending. Together, finally, forever. Some debts take 3 lifetimes to pay. Some loves take centuries to get right. Some souls are tied together so tightly that death is just an intermission, not an ending. If you're watching this and you've lost someone, take comfort. Love doesn't end. It echoes. Through time, through blood, through water, through whatever force makes consciousness persist beyond death. It finds a way back. I found her. Against all odds, across all time, through all the ways the universe could have kept us apart. I found her, and this time, I'm not letting go. But not the honorable death of sacrifice. I was to be imprisoned until they decided my ultimate fate. A traitor priest was unprecedented. They needed time to determine the proper ritual. I was placed in a small cell beneath the temple. Days passed. I was given minimal food and water. But I didn't despair, because I knew Xochitl had escaped. I had given her that. And somehow, that made everything worthwhile. Then the Spanish arrived. I heard the commotion from my cell, shouting, the thunder of their weapons, the screams of the dying. Hernán Cortés and his conquistadors had entered Tenochtitlan. Emperor Moctezuma tried to greet them peacefully, believing they might be gods or emissaries of Quetzalcoatl. He was wrong. They were men. Greedy, brutal men who saw our gold and wanted it for themselves. The initial encounter was tense but not violent. The Spanish were housed in the palace. Moctezuma gave them gifts, massive amounts of gold and precious stones. But instead of satisfying them, it only increased their hunger. Weeks turned into months. The situation deteriorated. The Spanish took Moctezuma hostage. They demanded more gold, more tribute. They destroyed our temples, placing crosses on top of our pyramids. They called our religion evil, our gods demons. I was still imprisoned through all of this. The priests had forgotten about me in the chaos. Or perhaps they thought leaving me to starve was punishment enough. But then came the massacre at the Templo Mayor. During a religious festival, while our people danced and celebrated, the Spanish soldiers, led by Pedro de Alvarado while Cortés was away, attacked. They blocked the exits and slaughtered everyone inside. Thousands died. The Spanish later claimed they thought we were preparing for war. The truth? They wanted to seize control through terror. This was the breaking point. The entire city rose up in rage. La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows, as the Spanish would later call it. We drove them out of Tenochtitlan, killing many of them as they tried to flee across the causeways. But we knew they would return. And they did, months later, with more men, more weapons, and a devastating ally: smallpox. The disease swept through our city like fire through dry grass. People died by the thousands. Entire families wiped out in days. The streets filled with corpses. Our healers were helpless against this invisible enemy. During this chaos, someone finally remembered me. A young priest, barely more than a boy, opened my cell. Everyone is needed to defend the city, he said. Even traitors. I emerged into a nightmare. The beautiful city I had known was dying. The canals ran red with blood and disease. The great pyramids were pockmarked from Spanish cannons. Bodies lay everywhere, rotting in the heat. I helped where I could. I carried water to the fighters. I tended to the sick, even knowing the disease could kill me too. I had already betrayed my priesthood. I might as well serve humanity in more direct ways. The final battle came in August 1521. The Spanish had surrounded the city. We were starving, diseased, exhausted. But we fought. We fought with everything we had. I found myself on the pyramid steps, defending the temple of Huitzilopochtli alongside warriors and common people alike. The Spanish soldiers came in waves, their steel swords cutting through our wooden weapons, their armor deflecting our obsidian blades. I held a spear, something I had never been trained to use. A Spanish soldier came at me, shouting in his foreign tongue. I thrust the spear forward. It caught him in the shoulder, and he screamed. But then his companion was on me, his sword cutting across my chest. I fell backward, blood pouring from the wound. I couldn't breathe. The pain was everywhere. As I lay dying on the temple steps, the same steps where I had once performed sacrifices, I looked up at the sky. Smoke from 1,000 fires obscured the stars I had studied my entire life. My city, my civilization, my entire world was ending. But in that moment, I didn't think about the gods. I didn't think about the empire falling. I thought about Xochitl. I wondered if she had made it to safety. I wondered if she had found happiness. I wondered if somewhere out there, she was thinking of me too. My last thought before the darkness took me was this. Maybe love is the only God that matters. Maybe everything else, the rituals, the sacrifices, the temples and priests and empires, maybe all of that is just noise. Maybe the only truly sacred thing is the way one soul recognizes another across the chaos of existence. Then I died. When I woke up from the regression, I was sobbing. Dr. Reeves handed me tissues and gave me time to collect myself. That was intense, she said quietly. How do you feel? How did I feel? I felt like I had lived an entire lifetime in an hour. I felt grief for a lost world, for lost love, for a civilization that no longer existed. But I also felt something else, understanding. All those dreams, all those inexplicable feelings, they finally made sense. I wasn't crazy. I was remembering. The story doesn't end there, though. 3 months after my regression, something incredible happened. I was at a coffee shop, working on my laptop, when a woman sat down at the table next to mine. She was reading a book about pre-Columbian art. I wouldn't normally approach a stranger, but something compelled me to speak. Interesting book, I said. She looked up, and our eyes met. I know how this sounds. I know it seems like a fantasy or a coincidence too perfect to be real. But in that moment, looking into her eyes, I knew. I recognized her. Not her face, that was different. But something deeper, something that transcended physical appearance. I'm Marcus, I said. Natalie, she replied. Her hand was shaking as she extended it to shake mine. This is going to sound insane, but do I know you from somewhere? Yes, I said. From a long time ago. We talked for 6 hours that day. When I finally, nervously, told her about my past life regression, about Talak and Xochitl, she went pale. I've had dreams, she whispered. My whole life. Dreams about pyramids and a priest with kind eyes and running away in a canoe. I always thought they were just dreams. Natalie went to see Dr. Reeves for her own regression a week later. What she remembered matched my memories almost exactly. She was Xochitl. She had made it back to Tlaxcala. She had lived a long life, married, had children. But she never forgot the priest who saved her. We've been together for 2 years now. We're engaged. Our friends think we have a weirdly intense connection. Our families think we're perfect for each other. Neither of us has told many people about the past life aspect. Most people wouldn't understand, but we know. We found each other again. Across 500 years, across death and rebirth, across the destruction of an entire civilization, we found each other. I still have the dreams sometimes. But they're not nightmares anymore. They're memories. Bittersweet, painful, but ultimately beautiful memories of a life lived with conviction, even if that conviction cost me everything. I've learned something from all of this. Life is longer and stranger than we can possibly imagine. We are more than these individual lifetimes. We are accumulations of experiences, lessons learned across centuries. And love, real love, soul-deep love, is the only thing powerful enough to transcend death itself. The Aztec Empire fell. The temples were destroyed. The gods, if they ever existed, no longer demand blood. But love? Love persists. Love remembers. Love finds a way. If you're watching this and you've had similar experiences, dreams that feel too real, memories that aren't yours, connections with people that defy logical explanation, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not crazy. Maybe you're just remembering. And if you've lost someone in this life, if you're grieving someone you loved, take comfort in this. Death is not the end. It's just a pause, just a transition. The soul continues. Love continues. And somewhere, somehow, we find each other again. I died as Talak on temple steps in a burning city. But I lived again as Marcus. And I found Xochitl again, wearing the name Natalie this time. What are the odds? What force in the universe is powerful enough to bring two souls together across such vast distances of time? I don't have all the answers. I don't know the mechanics of reincarnation or how memories transfer between lives. I don't know if everyone reincarnates or just some of us. I don't know if we always find the people we loved before. But I know this. I was an Aztec priest named Talak. I fell in love with a woman condemned to die. I saved her at the cost of everything I had. I died watching my entire world burn. And somehow, impossibly, wonderfully, I found her again. If that's not proof that love is eternal, I don't know what is. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonates with you, if you have your own experiences with past lives or inexplicable memories, please share them in the comments. We're all in this together, navigating the mystery of existence. And remember, you are more than this moment, more than this life. You are eternal, you are loved, and you will love again. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. Hit the notification bell, and most importantly, keep an open mind. The universe is far stranger and more beautiful than we've been taught to believe. My name is Marcus Chen. But once, a long time ago, in a city of stone and smoke and sacred fire, my name was Talak. And I loved a woman named Xochitl. That love brought me back. That love found her again. That love gave this story a happy ending, even though the original ending was written in blood 500 years ago. Thank you, and may you find what you're looking for, in this life or the next.